Okay, here we are. Just doing a little impromptu. I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about. We're just doing it for the fans, getting out there and what's new. A lot of best of lists. Maybe we'll do some best of year end top 10 type shit. I went and did stand up comedy yesterday for the first time in like a year almost. Grizzly Pear. Shout out to my man addict running the open mic at the Grizzly Pear. Well, okay, so this one of the things that I find like freeing about stand-up comedy, particularly now, and well, part of this, I guess, because I'm back on Twitter. I think Twitter is like, I talked about this last time. I'm sure people are still interested and still want to hear more about it, but I think it's like subtly, like seeding racism and sexism, and I mean it more than it was. Like it's done that for a while, but like now that Elon Musk just sort of, is the master of the algorithm, it does seem like they are encouraging, or I guess this is just internet like decor etiquette in general, is just like it's just amazing how rude people are in the comments section. Like not people will more often than not, like if they disagree with you or they think you're wrong about something, they will put it in like the most dickhead kind of like hostile way they can. Like there's no like politeness really. There's no sense of like, hey, I want to be like nice in the comments section. It's like people are just as mean as fucking possible. Gen generally and I think that's one reason why our political divide has just blown wide open. And Trump obviously has kind of encouraged and like weaponized that. That was always sort of existing. There were always like trolls, and I remember meeting these guys, I think in 2015. They were friends of mine who lived upstate. They were friends of a friend of mine who lived upstate, and they were telling me about how even at that time, that was before Trump and the election and all that. They said that like for fun, they would like spend all their time like in the comments section, just like trying to piss people off. That's like what they did with their own free time. It's what they did for fun. And I think that has only been like encouraged and promoted since then. It's only gotten worse and worse and worse, to the point that like, I mean, I don't know if people really take that stuff personally, but like I don't really argue with people like in the fucking comments. If somebody like disagrees with some, life's too short. I'm not going to waste, and now it's like, you don't know if it's a bot or AI or some Russian fucking spy or something. So it's like, what is the fucking point in even like engaging in this? But I think the phone is just, obviously it's kind of calculating and managing our unhappiness in a very precise way. And I think the way that Elon Musk is using Twitter, he's trying to encourage certain it's like it's doing mental adjustments on you without even you knowing it, by showing you, like I was talking about last time. I see all these fights of like just people getting into the fight, or I see like car accident fucking videos. Twitter has got a lot of jump scares now, where it's like there'll be a lot of there's a lot of like nude films from like nude scenes from like films, just like in the timeline. You'll be scrolling and it's like, here's some kind of like provocative sexual situation from some fucking movie you've never seen. Uh Bradley Cooper. Or like people fighting, or like racism about immigration. Look at what happened to our country because the immigrants or whatever. And so it feels like these things are like, whether you intend it or not, it feels like it's sort of normalizing, or like flipping switches in your brain that like, okay, like it's reasonable to think this way. It's reasonable to be like, yeah, it's because they're fucking Islamic or whatever. They're ruining they're uh look at what happened to Europe. Look at what's happening. I guess my point is it feels like Twitter is trying to encourage like this kind of brazen radical honesty or something, right? I think that's the thing that people like appreciate about Trump, and sort of what all these, comedians are trying to aspire to, is like this radical honesty. Like the role that the comedian plays is like, says something so savage and brutal but like truthful, that you're just like, you can't deny it. It's what everybody was thinking. And so Trump, right, is like the president of that. Trump is like telling it like it is, and like, oh yeah, Rosie O'Donnell's fat, like he had the balls to say it. He's not like the rest of the politicians who are just lies and telling people whatever they want to hear, or any of us, right? Like most people, most of our kind of like training as human beings is to sort of like be polite, maybe not say what we think. It'll get us into trouble. I do think that this is like a class distinction. This is something that separates working class, worker bee kind of drones from elite. It's a mark, like if you're an elite rich, you can get away with, like Trump was born, right, with a fucking silver spoon. It's like, so yeah, this guy, his dad has got him out of any fucking problem he's ever gotten in his life. Like, he's never faced any fucking consequences. Of course, he like runs his fucking mouth off and is like terrible to people. Whereas like if you're a worker, you're taught to be agreeable. You're taught to be a team player. You're taught to not think, not ask questions, not talk back. You'll get fired. Or you're afraid to, it's just kind of, it's your manners. It's how you're brought up. Like, you're brought up to be polite. You're brought up to be passive aggressive, overly nice, people pleaser, right? And so stand-up comedians are sort of the ones who can get away with saying the things that's on everybody's mind, but they do it in a way that's funny. And so it gives everybody this pleasurable reaction, which sort of overrides, whatever backlash there might be towards the fact of what's being said. We're just warming up here, people. It takes about 40 minutes. If you just want to fast forward, no one is ever going to watch this. There's nobody watching it now. No one will watch it later. I have gotten more subscribers this week somehow. I'm almost to 500. If you're out there watching, I've got 498. So all I need is 2 more subscribers, and 500 it's sad. It's just really sad. I've been doing YouTube for like literally like 20 years. I've literally been on YouTube since like the beginning. And I've only got 500 subscribers. It's like really pathetic. Not even 500. And it's taken me, it's I've only really gone up in like the last couple years. 500 is really not that many. But whatever, it's all goals. You got to set whatever goals you can reach. Did you get your Spotify Wrapped, everybody? I got my Spotify Wrapped and my YouTube year in review. So maybe I'll talk about that, my Spotify Wrapped, at some point. I guess for me, going to Grizzly Pear yesterday, there were no women at all. It was just probably like, I think there was probably 7 or 8, 9 or 10 dudes there. In this back room, it's hot. The register is like this weird kind of electrical heat. So it's like a fucking toaster oven. And these other comedians are really just like, when you get that many males together, or I don't know, I guess, part of the culture of the attitude of stand-up comedy is almost to like say the most fucked up, controversial thing on your mind. Like this guy who went up before me. I mean, if it was a different audience, it would have been received completely differently. This guy only could say this because of it was a bunch of white. Well, they weren't all white, but it was like mostly white, male comedian, whatever types. And so this guy, I forget what the fuck he was talking about, but it was racist. It was definitely racist. I don't remember what it was, but he definitely said something about black people and blah, blah, blah. And, not to encourage that by any means, but like, there's something freeing about seeing somebody go up and do that, because then you're just like, okay, why not just like use this as an excuse? It's a safe space. Like I said, I mean, I recorded my set. I don't even think it's possible to rebroadcast it because it was so sloppy and just like everything I do, just sloppy and 60% kind of cringe. And then there's like probably 10% gold in there. But I don't know. I think we've been so pent up. Maybe it's just me in general, for the last decade, afraid of saying the wrong thing, trying to say the right thing, trying to do the right thing, pretending, I guess, that like you weren't a certain way before, or, like all of a sudden everybody is super, woke and all the etiquette that entails. But like, were things in 2008 like hyper woke? Like, not really. There was a lot of offensive in a lot of these movies we've been watching and shit. The 90s were like this outpouring, and particularly like the late 90s, early 2000s, of just like shock humor, not that it was less like racial per se or gender based, but it was like Tom Green and all of this bro, dude, where's my car? I guess it's like privileged white guy. Rob Schneider. The shower rape type humor. There were so many fucking jokes about dropping the soap when I was like growing up, middle school and high school. It was like pretty normal to hear people talk about like dropping the soap or whatever. It's like, this is fucking very weird. Which was also a time of like body shaming, and whiteness was centered as like the European kind of beauty standard was still kind of like centered, and Bush era was very racist, and like the whole thing was fueled towards like hate toward Islam. And it was very like pro America. There were American flags every fucking place, cowboys and shit. And I don't know, or even something like Bill Maher, right? Like his show was called Politically Incorrect. Like the idea being that like even then he was sort of like kind of like stepping on the lines of like what's acceptable to say, what's not. um it's almost like dry heaving. It's therapeutic, I guess. Like with comedy now, I used to go in and like try to do bits. Like I'd go up on stage with like a list of fucking premises, I guess, basically. And now I don't know. I'm sort of, not that I have that much experience, but I'm experienced enough in it that like, I don't really care what the fucking, not that I want the audience to like not like me, but like I'd rather just do what I believe in and try something like original than like do it the way everybody else is doing it. Like, so I went up on stage and I was just like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I have no clue what I'm going to talk about when I get up there. I don't know what I'm going to say. But like this. And my goal, although I wanted to be funny and make people laugh, my goal was more like, because one of my big takeaways from doing these comedy open mics or open mics in general is like, you might hear some funny shit, but like you'll probably hear a handful of things that'll like stick with you, just like observations or like there was a couple things some guy said yesterday that I was like, yeah, this is pretty fucking smart and pretty this one guy had a joke about the gayest way to have sex is to make the woman come. The gayest way to have sex is to cunnilingus. Basically. Was the gist of it. It's a joke, people. It's a joke. That has like kind of a funny kernel of truth. The way that guys look at Uncle Junior or look at Sopranos. How they all fucking freak out. There's a whole fucking, it almost brings down the mafia. It almost brings down the whole goddamn family. The whole glorified crew. They're a glorified crew. To me, that said something about masculinity. It's not pretty, but like, I would rather get to stuff like that. I'd rather have, a set that's 60%, kind of like chopping through the weeds, I guess, getting to something that's like real. To me, that's what the open mics are for. When I pay to do a comedy open mic, it's almost like it's the things that I found valuable about it is more like the discoveries. And like, I'd rather try to make that shit happen on stage because that is exciting for the audience. That's when the laughs are like real. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely people talented enough to do like material and like make people laugh every fucking, or do it the same way basically every time. Like most comedians' bits are like very scripted. As a kid, I remember you'd see Dennis Leary on two different shows, and he'd do the same jokes, but it sounded kind of slightly different. The way he'd do like the voice or whatever, the way he'd inflect it. Uh, I think that to get to, that's the point of doing like all the stage time and practicing sort of like spontaneous ad libbing, reacting. It's just like you want to acclimate to being in front of the audience. To me, it's just like being a waiter. When I was a waiter, I was always able to think on my feet and come up with like quick. It's like having a little stage with it's a foretop. The tables like the. So I mean, being an MC or like even a comedian or anything is almost like it's basically like the same thing, except you're entertaining hundreds of people. In these small clubs, that's especially apparent because the people are literally sitting at like cocktail tables, or maybe even like at fucking, when I went to Peter Glissman's comedy show, it's like I got a hamburger and tacos. There's literally like it's almost like fucking dinner theater. There's literally like a full kitchen, the 2-drink minimum, the 2-item minimum is like a big part of it. The comedians are just there to sell you the food and the alcohol and keep you in like a positive, affirmative hypnosis state. So you keep wanting, if you boost the audience's positive emotions, and that's when they want to spend money. That's when they go, hey, I want to stay. I got to check this out. I got to see some more of this shit. What's going to happen next? And so I guess that's scarier to do in front of a bunch of people or whatever, but most of the fucking comedy sets I've seen were bombs, no matter who goes up there. And it doesn't, you get used to it. It's like you realize that that's just like a part of it, and like that's part of the gamble. Sometimes you win, sometimes you roll the dice and you crap out. You bomb. You run out of the club before anybody can boo you out of there in shame or confront you or beat you up or something. I don't know. There's a lot of fucking people competing to try to do it. I mean, this is something I've been thinking a lot about recently, as it's been made apparent to me, is just like the numbers, the sheer numbers of people trying to do. First of all, New York just, I mean, it is one of the most populated cities in the country. Isn't it the most populated? And, one of the most populated cities in the world. And people come here from all over the fucking world. So there's just like avalanches of fucking people. And that includes like whatever the fuck it is you're trying to do. I mean, comedy especially. There's a lot of poets here, but like, Jesus Christ, there's a million comedians. It's just clown town, 100%. And musicians, but I mean, comedians especially. Comedians travel light. They don't even have to bring anything to the gig. All they bring is their fucking notebook, maybe. They don't have a guitar. They don't have a fucking, poets even got books and shit. Comedians are the most lazy, sloppy, and it's part of what I want to learn to do, but I also think the audience isn't always right. And you don't know who's out there. Uh and so it's important, I think, to just stand your ground and do whatever the hell it is that you do that's interesting and be congruent. But, it's a little hard to deal with the idea that just like you're so replaceable. It's like that's not a whole lot of fun. The long, slow realization that you're just like so replaceable. And like when you have that many numbers, when you have, literally whatever, 9 billion people on planet Earth, that's a lot of fucking people. 9 billion, I mean, Jesus Christ. And the best of the best of the best of the best genetically or however you want to think about it, come to New York one way or another, generally, right? Sooner or later, all of the best of whatever is going to come through here. New York is still kind of like the acknowledged showcase, whatever. So you are rubbing up against people who have a lot of advantages over you. People who are taller, people who are better looking, people who are tall and good looking and brilliant and rich and young and connected and nepo babies, and they're 6'5" and they're fucking uh went to Juilliard or whatever. They're credentialed as fuck. Trying to get a job. Like if my resume was going to go up against Ashley's resume, for instance. When I first moved to New York, I applied for some like literary type magazine jobs. I thought I had sort of a fucking good resume for what I could get together in Columbus, Ohio, with my lazy fucking uh way of doing things. My lazy disobedient way of doing things. And I had some literary fucking credentials for fucking undergrad or whatever, and I applied to some and I didn't even get any kind of callback or anything. And it's just like you realize I mean, with video stuff it was different. Like video stuff, I got a lot of the jobs I applied for, actually. I mean, I guess I had more of like a resume that I could show at that time, and like real world experience. I'd made a lot of fucking corporate videos and shit. But I mean, if you're going up against somebody that went to fucking Columbia or Harvard or Yale or XYZ, fucking Oxford, Cambridge or Princeton or Iowa Writers Workshop or whatever the fuck it is, they've already kind of pre-sorted people institutionally. That's the point. And you arrive here in the battlefield of it all to kind of fight it out with whatever, your talent that used to matter. I was always doing stuff, but I don't know, you really have to like throw yourself into it so hard. I wish I would have been a little bit more. I mean, I didn't even get to New York till I was 25, right? I had to work my way here. I had to literally be a waiter, and that's like physically, emotionally really taxing and abusive. I'm very sensitive. My nervous system is very nervous, and so I didn't necessarily have like my approach worked out, or uh I was still kind of trying to learn. I was very obsessed with like trying to learn how to do things, learn the rules so you can break the rules. I did spend a lot, believe it or not, I did spend a long time trying to, not that I ever learned them successfully. Like I could never really write like a great sonnet. I tried yesterday. Yesterday, I was like, I'm going to write a fucking sonnet. I'm going to rhyme and everything that I used to do. I used to count syllables. I used to rhyme. I know those forms. I'm not like, I never wrote any like masterpieces like fucking Seamus Haney or Henri Cole or whatever. But I learned more to just embrace whatever I liked. And I think that's a big part of, I don't know. You have to start with something like unusual. You have to start with something fun, and uh otherwise you just end up writing, like those, I think those forms are kind of like handicapping, or you're kind of hamstrung if you are trying to write a traditional, but they're more recognizable. I mean, I think people who even are like, trying to read poetry seriously, it's like they would rather read something like that. They'd rather study something that's like a typical sonnet, or a fucking pantoum, or a gazelle, or God forbid, a sestina. No one's ever gonna watch this. That's okay. I don't care. This is practice. It's all just practice, everybody. Um, I'll go to maybe 4 o'clock. I'm trying to get to this open mic at 5, so I probably got to get going by like 4. But God, I thought I would get more viewers with this on this computer. But anyway, um, yeah, I tried to write a sonnet yesterday. It did not really go that well. My process has really just been about like absolute laziness, avoiding work at all costs, just letting things happen spontaneously the way that they happen, and that those kind of spasms go down on the page, on the stage, on the internet, and not editing too much, cutting in camera, not doing too much posts, not revising, publishing everything, not editing, streaming, if you will, improvising. I do sort of. I mean, this is rehearsal. I write, a lot. I wrote 3 pages yesterday. Big pages. I wrote a sonnet. I wrote a bunch of sonnets. I mean, I had a breakthrough with the form with my book Speed Chess, because my idea with Speed Chess was just write everything that comes into my mind in a sonnet box, and then take everything out that doesn't work and leave it on the page how it is. Those were like my sonnets. I submitted it to some fucking contest. It didn't win. But I mean, Speed Chess was like the beginning of my new avant-garde. Well, this is something I also wanted to talk about, is like the difference. It's like the thing I was talking about with manners. With art, there are class distinctions that they want to delineate. They want to be able to identify you as like, you are the underclass, we are the elite. We recognize each other. And I would, poetry, or any form really, but is an interesting example of this. I would say if you look at like the John and Yoko relationship, John Lennon and the Beatles are like working class. They're like the ultimate working class, because everything they do like pays off. All of the Beatles, everything they ever did, like fucking like really serves the audience. You know, it makes the audience happy. The audience loves it, right? Immediately. It's just immediate, like, yes. Um, Popular, but also like elevated. You know, they brought people into like pretty high-minded ideas, cut ups or surrealist. You know, there's a lot of surrealism in the Beatles. That Sgt. Pepper's is completely surrealist. Mr. Kite and Lucy in the Sky and Strawberry Fields. Strawberry Fields is something I've wanted to talk about because I mean it's mind blowing. It really is mind blowing. It's a poem. It's a church. It's a shrine. Strawberries are like these little shrines, and the way they put that song together is like miraculous. They cut together two takes that like are very different and like neither one of which like was totally successful. And it became this kind of like freak miracle of a thing. They sped it, you know, it's just like crazy. So anyway, but then Yoko, right, is more of an example. I think she was born, isn't she some kind of like Japanese royalty or something? She's like she's very much like upper class in her society, and her art is sort of reflective of that. It's sort of, I mean, I like it, but it's a more of like an elitist kind of like, you know, if you look at any fucking, you know, Beatles fan, they hate Yoko, right? The average Beatles fan thinks Yoko broke up the Beatles. She was bad. She's a witch. She's a negative influence. She's horrible music. She just screams all over everything. It's like she's, you know, Yoko is like, there's no talent there. She's not fun to listen to, right? She's not like immediately, she can't really sing like in key very much. She kind of has like an accent when she sings, which I'm sure like the white people didn't love in the fucking 70s or whatever. So there's a lot of racism in that. There's a lot of sexism in that. You know, I think John Lennon, it was perfect for him because he was a provocateur and it was the ultimate using his fame to sort of put this in people. Every fucking picture of John Lennon, Yoko is like right there. She's there with the Beatles, right? She's right in the middle of all of them. So it's sort of forcing these avant-garde woke. I would say it's woke. I bet John Lennon would be woke. I would say he was kind of woke in a way. He, you know, after the Beatles, that's what he did. He was like a radical political, you know, like yippie or whatever. He wanted to be like this kind of like, you know, terrorist or peace terrorist. He's like a peace idea, conceptual artist. Those were the people that he hung out with, right? Like Jonas Mekas, John Cage and shit. These sort of New York elite avant-garde. And there's a class of people here, Trust Fund, people like Lita Hornick, right? Culture Magazine, people like Gertrude Stein, right? Gertrude Stein's parents, I think, were doctors or something. They were some kind of oil. She's born in Pittsburgh or something, right? She grew up in Oakland, but her parents got rich, I think, through some kind of Western Pennsylvania railroad or oil or some shit. And so she was like, it furnished her ability to write the way she did, right? She had an inheritance. She could live in Paris cheaply, hang out with all these other bohemian, poor, you know, the nexus of all these cultures and all these cubism and African masks and, you know, all of these things colliding, surrealism, cut ups. And she could write the way that she did, where it's like, you know, is your average person gonna really like appreciate, you know, fucking tender buttons or whatever, or The Making of Americans, if like it's, fucking Huckleberry Finn or something. Like, I think there's sort of like a skepticism probably from some meat and potatoes kind of, voters. And, I sort of understand both sides, I guess. I'm lucky that coming from, a working class background where, like, everybody loves Rush. It's like prog rock is the ultimate thing because it's so craft. There's so much fucking craft. There's so much discipline. There's so much technique. It's hard to do. Not everybody can play fucking Rush music, really. Like Geddy Lee is kind of a freak, and that's part of the reason why. And the Beatles are sort of like that too. Like no one can write songs like that. No one else has sort of figured that out. And so that's why they're sort of like, the pragmatic favorite, whereas like everybody hates Revolution Number 9, right? They're just like, what the fuck is this? This long sound collage piece of shit that's interrupting, fucking Savoy Truffle or whatever. And fuck that. Fuck that avant-garde. Even George Harrison said something about he didn't like the avant-garde. He said it was the avant-garde clue. The avant-garde clue. And I picked up this book yesterday at the library. It's called something about trans femme suicide, or I don't remember exactly what the hell it was called. Trans girl suicide note or something. Because it looked very au courant, and I was curious about it. And I sort of thumbed through it a little bit. And I went to the beginning of the book, and the very first thing that the person says in the book is they're acknowledging their privilege, which is that both of their parents are Ivy League professors. And so they got to go to an Ivy League school for free, and they grew up rich. And so they were acknowledging at the beginning of the book their extreme privilege, right? And so I immediately put the book down. I couldn't read anymore because I'm like, it kind of, I don't know. I mean, that is how I feel a lot about, like, I mean, I guess that is the avant-garde, or that, like I said, this is where these things come from, right? Like people who have financial security, who grow up with a good education where they are advancing, these ideas. That's different than what they're teaching in a fucking public school or whatever. What you're getting in a elite education is a class distinction that they are breeding into you, right? I had this interesting conversation with this woman in Vermont once. She was bitching about the socialism. She owned an art gallery in Vermont. And she was bitching about, because you have to pay shitloads of taxes, right? Because it's Bernie and socialism. And so the public schools in Vermont, the rural schools, are actually really good. That's why I was up there shooting videos. That's why we were there. Because their rural schools had like 3D printers and drones, and like the kids were getting this good education. But like she was saying something about she had to send her kid to boarding school because even though the kids were getting a good education, like it was still, because it was public school, it was like, it wasn't like glamorous to be like smart and shit like that. It was still kind of the way, the public school is kind of like famously, I don't know, a barbaric place. If you're real unlucky, you get beat up. Like I knew people, if you went to West High School or whatever, like you got probably your ass kicked every day at school. Like, my school was not like that. The school system we were in was pretty good because it wasn't Columbus public schools, but like, the things that are like, that make you cool in fucking public high school are like different. Like she was like, at this boarding school, it's like, it's cool to be smart. It's cool to be an artist. It's cool to be, you don't get ostracized for that shit. You don't get made fun of for like being a nerd. Like it's cool, like that's why fucking Vampire Weekend like went to fucking private school and shit, because like they're teaching these kids to be artists. They're teaching these kids to embrace those, and that's good. Um, but in order to have an appreciation for like these more kind of abstract ideas, right? Like coming to the Guggenheim Museum in New York and seeing three fluorescent light bulbs on the wall and being like, oh yeah, that's art. Or seeing fucking Jackson Pollock paintings or something, right? And being like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. Look at that. Look at Cy Twombly, okay? He's a fucking genius. Oh my God, Cy Twombly. Whereas, like, your average person in middle America looks at Cy Twombly and goes, my kid just did that on the wall. Like, I could do that. That's not, there has to be like there has to be like product value. There has to be payoff. There has to be some kind of like smoking ass like some kind of like really face melting guitar player or doing something that just like your average person can't do. Uh that's has to be that's like example it's like painting something that looks like really photorealistic. It's like, oh wow, look at that, how did they do that, how did they make it look just like the fucking thing? That's harder to do than just throw a bunch of fucking paint at a goddamn canvas or make a noise band or a sound collage or and so I don't know, I try to like straddle the two, I guess, like try to have like working class delivery of instant gratification and instant kind of like understanding, but also like a sense of like uh is this really what it is? That's what you're gonna do? My connection is unstable. What? That's not possible. Okay, there we go. Or I don't know, like is wabi sabi. There are things that inform the avant-garde ideas. Like I do think Yoko Ono is like an equal. Like I think John Lennon thought that. And he was right. He was smart enough that he could appreciate, you know, a lot of her conceptual kind of like simplistic. It's meant to like activate the witness. It's meant to like inspire some kind of like life generation in the person perceiving it. Uh Bagism. Somebody tuned out because I said I like Yoko. I like Yoko's art. Um Even her music I think is dope as hell. Her Twitter is lit. Uh Love Yoko. I think that's what's like ironic about it is like a lot of like the avant-garde ideas are like weirdly like more populist or like they're meant to like make things like John Cage. The whole point of John Cage is just like to just let things happen as they happen. Just listen to everything is music, right? It's not like Mozart, right? Where it's like there's this one person had the talent from the gods and like no one else is equal to Mozart. Like it's nice to have both, right? I don't think they're necessarily like mutually exclusive, but did Mozart do any kind of sound collage shit? Is there an equivalent of 433 in Mozart? There probably is, to be honest. If he's that fucking genius. Uh and I think, stand-up comedy to wrap it back to this, is sort of like a working class medium, right? Like they're the modern day philosophers, but they're sort of like philosophy for dummies. It's sort of like dumbed down Joe the plumber philosophy. It's common sense, but it's also like, hey, never thought of that before. Um, they're doing something that's like not everybody can do, or it's really scary, or uh, although now I feel like comedy is just such a big industry that like you can sort of get spots doing it if you just do it. I don't know. Uh, if you're willing to pay to play, it's kind of a pay to play. Um, I mean, that's one of the things that is like the promise of New York is, as a person from anywhere, you come here and you can get exposed to, because New York is such a like everything is kind of like sifted together and kind of just like in the same rooms. You can witness uh that kind of stuff. You can see these kind of like guarded high society, things like MoMA, things like Peggy Guggenheim, like these were wealthy fucking people. The art patrons, the buyers of art, the collectors are rich fucking people. They're the ones who'll pay fucking $45 million for a goddamn Cy Twombly Crayola scribble. And how do you get a piece of that action? I guess I'm just like reflecting. I was lucky to be able to work where I worked because I did get exposed to like a lot of legendary people, and like to see them up close for somebody like me and to get paid to do it is kind of insane. Uh, Having a connection to that kind of like high art world. There's an idea, it first occurred to me, and it probably first occurs to a lot of people when you move to New York, that like, you know, in our culture, there's people that are famous, movie stars, people on talk shows, musicians, whatever. But then when you get here, you realize that there's almost like people that are famous to the people that are famous. Like somebody like John Cage or Yoko Ono or Jonas Mekas or Merce Cunningham or Meredith Monk, or New York is full of these. Robert Wilson. I was reading this Laurie Anderson eulogy of Robert Wilson in Art Forum. It was pretty interesting. That stuff is pretty highfalutin. It's modern. Uh, I think that's one of the things that's exciting about the Beatles is they were able to be avant-garde and they sort of fit in with things like that. Like there's this picture of McCartney with Jasper Johns because they both lived on Long Island. And I think Linda McCartney's family knew Jasper, or not Jasper Johns, William de Kooning. It's McCartney and William de Kooning. He probably knows Jasper Johns too, but it's McCartney and William de Kooning. And it sort of works. It makes sense, actually. Like Eleanor Rigby or something like that is, it's a masterpiece. Penny Lane. And so I guess there's some sense that you want to be like a pop artist and a pop genius. Who's a pop genius today? Is Lana Del Rey a pop genius? David Lynch, I think, was like sort of a pop genius. I'm not sure how pop he was, but he sort of, things like Twin Peaks, I think, were big culturally, household. He was on the cover of fucking magazines and shit. They all do meditation. What's the one thing they have in common, everybody? Hare Krishna. They all do meditation, I think. They literally do meditation. Like the Beatles literally did fucking meditation. I mean, it was famous. They went to fucking India and the Maharishi and shit. David Lynch. I mean, maybe there's something to it. Who knows? Jerry Seinfeld meditates. What does Larry David do? What's his fucking spiritual routine? Yeah, so I'm trying to tie this back. Is there a thing that I need to tie this back to? Well, my bigger point about like stand-up comedy and Twitter and what I'm trying to get from it is like, well, now that I've lost my job and I'm losing quickly everything else. The bed broke the other day. This bed I mean, any kind of like actual furniture. Anything like he says in any hall, anything your parents tell you is good is bad. Going to the dentist, any kind of bougie interior design, just like put your bed on the floor. It's actually better. I feel way better now that the bed is on the floor, actually. I feel grounded. I feel spiritual. I feel like I'm in a bohemian place now, and in a grounded place, there's a vibe now. There was no vibe before. It's like an office in here with all this fucking office furniture and all these fucking like containers and dividers and fuck all of that. The Container Store. Like, what could be more fucking soulless? It's just like a filing cabinet for your fucking blood and guts. They massacred my boy. Yeah, so I paid for the 5 minutes of open mic time. I'm going to use it to riff, and hopefully some nuggets will come out of it, okay? I'm not going to, like, rehearse, beat my material into the fucking ground and have nobody laugh. I mean, I don't do material, okay? I think that's the wrong way. I think you got to say something fresh. You got to say something alive. You got to vibe it the fuck out with these people. I'm a karaoke artist, okay? The audience, it's like this lovemaking session. You're intimate. When you get on stage, you are so like locked with the audience. It's like you're clinching the audience. There is like a grappling and a jockeying and a touch. There's an actual like embrace. There's an actual embrace. There's an energetic contact, even though you are just looking out into the dark. I guess I like doing shows that if people are at the show, I would love that. But like, if I'm just going to do an open mic or something, it's like, I don't care if there's 8 people there. I wish I got more than 5 minutes when I'm riffing. I was just getting started. I was just getting into some good shit. I was talking about body shaming. There was no women there, like I said. So it felt like, well, okay, let me just run my let me just run my fucking mouth and just say all of the bile. Let's get all the bile out. Let's just spew it out. Just vomit it out. All the frustration. That's what this is for. That's what this open mic is for. This sad, pathetic man cave, this like men's rights group, this men's rights action. This is the male loneliness epidemic. This open mic hey, at least they're doing something. They're in person. They're sharing their thoughts, as heinous as they may be. And just, I don't know. I'm not like the other comedian guys. A lot of them have like kind of Kevin James energy. A lot of them have like this kind of heavy, like sort of jock, high school athlete, which is fine. They all look like Rogan, but like Man Show Rogan, or they have Rogan, Kevin James energy. I don't know how to describe it, but like kind of gay at the same time. Very particular. I don't know. Kevin James, I guess, is kind of gay. That's part of his appeal, I think. He's this sort of like adorable oaf. But how do you break through? I mean, you have to be brave enough. If you're just going to be like everybody else, you might as well be a comedy writer. And so I think you go to these, I don't know, a lot of these open mics, it's like these guys are all sort of like, they're just like baseball hat, flannel, wearing sarcastic, dry norm wannabes, which is fine, but a lot of them do have good shit to say too. They probably do fine. Like I said, there's a lot of gigs out there. It's like, I think if there's a bad comedian on stage, can be a lot worse than a bad band. Or I don't know, like, I think it's probably harder maybe to like make it work as a comedian in front of a bunch of people. A band, you can be like kind of good and like people will be sort of okay with it. Whereas like comedians, I feel like it's hard to be good. It's hard to do something different or I don't know, like maybe it's not hard. It's just that's how you are. But I don't know. I guess there's just a lot of, I've taken a lot of, like I'm watching this documentary about Vader on TikTok. There's all these like dark side of wrestling clips that are chopped up into like 2-minute segments, and they just come at you like randomly, all out of order at odd intervals. And you'll never, because there's so many of these documentaries. So it's like, I've seen a little bit about the one about, there's one about Owen Hart. There's one about the Midnight Express or something. One of those fucking teams. I don't know. The Legion of Doom. There's one about them. And then there's one about Vader. So I've seen all these different parts of all these different. There's one about Harley Race, I think. There's one about Superstar Billy Graham. And so I've seen all these different parts of Dark Side of Wrestling, but there's one about Vader. I like Vader. I don't know why. I bet he crippled this guy. There's this match where Vader like literally power bombs this guy onto his neck, and it said it almost severed the guy's spine. It's like, Jesus Christ. You wouldn't think, I mean, those wrestling rings, I don't think are any fucking joke, actually. Like, it's not like a fucking trampoline. It's not like backyard wrestling, okay? It's not like doing it on some old mattresses. Somebody said the old WWF rings are like a parking lot, which is hard to believe, but they said until Vince got in the ring, they were pretty stiff. He got in the ring in the late 90s and he had them adjusted. I think the ECW ring is the perfect ring. It's got this kind of bounce that I think, relieves a lot of the, absorbs a lot of the whatever. So what Vader, they were talking about how he went to, and Vince McMahon did this with a lot of people, where just like people that were big in WCW, it's almost like he got them in WWF just to ruin them. Like he kind of did it with DDP, Steiner. Some of those WCW guys got through, I guess, Benoit or Eddie Guerrero, but the big betrayers like never really went that far. And so it said he kind of buried Vader. He ruined Vader's career. And they said Vader was just so browbeaten that it took away Vader's mojo. And good God, I mean, I don't know. My life has just kind of been shot through with holes over the last 6 months. And so, I don't know. There's only so much a man can take. But, the the open mics and shit are where I live anyway, out in the back rooms, in the sign-up sheets. And so what have you got to lose? Like we're in this sort of free fall as a country. Our president is falling asleep in the fucking cabinet meetings. He's becoming more unhinged. He's tweeting like 400 times. They said he tweeted like 400 times in one night. I mean, I've been tweeting a lot, but I'm nowhere near. I mean, I tweet maybe at most five times in one day. 400 fucking tweets. That's I think that's grounds for the 25th Amendment or whatever it is. Like, I think you could use that. He might hit the nuclear fucking codes on he might hit the nuclear button on accident. They might shit can Hegseth. I think that would be wise. He's just underqualified. What they're doing is real fucking weird and illegal, war crimes. But we won't get into that. We'll just talk about the catharsis. Well, I don't know. Twitter is just this kind of like combat zone, and I think there is something freeing or cathartic or necessary about in this moment. It feels like this moment of just letting it out. Like, why not? What the fuck? Not that my poetry didn't do that before. I guess I've, sort of always been inappropriate, and especially the last few years. It felt like, I don't know, speaking your truth. I don't know. I'm from the fucking Freddy Got Fingered era. We grew up in a crude, judgmental, well, I was sort of talking about, I was trying to get into, I don't hate women. But I do have some notes. I do have some like constructive criticism to offer them that might help them out. Not that they're ever going to listen to it, ever. But I think, things have gotten out of hand with like the gender balance. And I think women are benefiting from particularly like social media and monetizing like male gaze, and just like that's currency now. And other things too. But not only that, I think they have it. I think they have it easy. But they think they have it hard. They've been told their whole life that, um, I mean, particularly if you're fucking, I don't know, this sounds pathetic and like, this is only going to alienate me from women. That's why I said it in the room that there were no women in. I felt like, oh, I can say, I wasn't getting into that, but part of my point was like, in the fucking 2000s, right, we had body shaming. And there has been a lot of good, because the idea was like it was hurting people, by like making women like anorexic or something. That was like really unhealthy. And like maybe they're even suicidal. They might be Karen Carpenter or some shit, so like we need to embrace all body sizes can be sexy, at least if they're fat women. Or gay men or something. But if you're a white man, you're a piece of shit and fuck you. And uh and so it was a little bit of a double standard, which made it a kind of a tough pill to swallow. But it was retribution, and it was a lot. There was a lot that had built up going into that, so it was not necessarily uncalled for or anything. um that being said, um why is it that we have this sense that there's like all of these fucking hot women everywhere, and there's no men that are like good enough to date them? Like this is something I see over and over again on social media. I don't know. Maybe do people believe this in real life? Am I just too online? Am I getting all my information through propaganda? But um maybe that's just a New York thing. Maybe it's a lifestyle thing. The idea, right, is like men are not keeping up. They're not working on themselves. They're lazy, whatever. They play video games all day. They watch fucking live stream. They live stream all day to two people. Shout out to Bruce Halliday and Adam S. Thank you for keeping this alive. Viewers like you. If I had awesome cleavage, I'd probably have tens of thousands of people watching this. And I am pro awesome cleavage, but it's, what is the male equivalent of that? Being Hassan Piker, being just like this Chad, Giga Chad, being, I don't know, being doing backflips. Apparently the secret to success on streaming is doing backflips. Streaming video games, I guess, being good at video games might be the equivalent. Or what the fuck does Logan Paul do? What the fuck is Logan Paul good at? How the fuck did he was like a rapper or something? Like, how did Logan Paul get famous? Like, what the fuck does Mr. Beast do? Like, what's the value he's providing? He's like sort of like a sweepstakes game show reality. Like it's almost like Home Makeover or something. I don't even know I don't watch it. I like narratives. I like personality. I like learning. I don't even know what the fuck Mr. Beast. I wouldn't even know where to see it or how to see it or Um, it's on YouTube, I guess. Is it on Amazon Prime yet? Oh, we were watching Gilmore Girls. Have you seen Gilmore Girls? Gilmore Girls is the greatest show ever made. I want to make a show exactly like Gilmore Girls, except about open mic culture in New York. Exactly like Gilmore Girls. I loved Gilmore Girls, okay? I'm 100% pro Gilmore Girls. It's not as good as Mad Men, but it's almost like a Linklater. Dawson's Creek I'd like to revisit. It's almost like if Dawson's Creek and Linklater had a baby or something. Not I don't know. I was surprised how much I liked Dawson Creek. I kind of hated myself. I didn't see it till I was an adult. My friend Anna had Dawson's Creek DVDs in her apartment on Avenue D in 2010. So we watched Dawson's Creek, and I hated how much I liked it. Because I always fucking hated on Dawson's Creek. But if I could make a Gilmore Girls show about the literary world, that would be like the greatest piece of art of the 21st century, possibly. I mean, it's a magnificent achievement. And but we didn't watch that. I liked 30 Rock too. I was surprised how much I liked that. I'd like to watch the rest of that. I guess I'm just a fucking slovenly. I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get out there and fucking do some shows and get shit moving. So let's get this shit moving. That's why I'm out there spewing that's what I see these other comedians do. They go up and say the same shit every time. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But to me, it's an opportunity to play jazz. I know the audience is confused, but if I can get through to a handful of people, that's like I said, that a lot of times that's my takeaway. Is like a comedian or somebody will say something and you're like, okay, that's going to stay with me for some reason. If I can create those moments, if I can just create a couple things that might stay with some people, then it's worth the kind of barrage of the fire hose of just like throwing shit at the wall and trying shit. And my fucking eye is like, I've got a sty on this eye and it's like kind of like the lid is like not opening all the way. I wonder why. What did I do? So yeah, I was talking about well, this is something, people in the comments, it's like, what is it? Hotness inflation, or there's just like in the same way that there's inflation, right, in our pocketbooks, there's inflation in like the dating economy where like, well, I mean, for one thing, I mean, female beauty, I guess that's just nature. I mean, men are horny. What the fuck? That's just demand, right? Supply and desire. And maybe nature was always this way. Maybe there always was just like I think in order for a woman to like really be attracted to a man, if he's not like, just like a generic type that she's into, which is like that's what people are looking for through these apps. It's like I want a guy who's like physically my type, but also fits all of like my list of like, does he have a job? Does he have, friends or whatever the, criteria they have for what they're looking for. It's not really about narrative. It totally removes the narrative completely. Every narrative is the same. It's like we met on fucking Tinder or Hinge and we went and fucking got a drink or whatever. And I think especially for women, they need a narrative because it's like they can be turned on by like a guy that's fucking short or whatever. It's like, but it's like they need to see something. They need to see that like women are turned on by like you just being capable. Like if you show that you're like competent, they get turned on by that. They think, this guy can handle shit. This guy, like, it's not all about, I mean, like, superficially, yeah, it's all about 6'2", jaw, look smogging, whatever. Jacob Elordi, motherfucker. They want to date Hosier or whatever. Or somber, I guess. Now it's somber. They want to date a super tall. But only like, physical type wise. Like, it's about a story. It's about a unique. And so these things happen through like action, like conversation, meeting somebody, showing them, like kismet, meet cute. Like New York is like the meet cute. That's what the subway, that's what the public, that's one of the reasons why I live here is because like not necessarily meeting like romantic, but just being able to collide, meet friends, you know, things can happen that are unplanned, right? And intuitive and sort of like that's magic to me. Happenstance, coincidence, not planning everything, not ordering everything on a fucking app, not door dashing every fucking meal. It's like the internet really just shows you things that you're already looking for. It's like the real world, you're going to see all kind of random shit. And it feels like it means something. It's almost like writing. It's almost like writer's block. It's like, where am I going to go today? What am I going to do? This day is sort of a blank page. It's scary. What am I going to do? Let's see what's going on with the weather. I think it's going to get fucking real cold. 39. It's going to go down to 23 and even further than that. That sucks. I'm going to try. There's this open mic at this hotel in Midtown that sounds really cool and it's free. But it's at 5:00, so I'm going to try to go to that maybe. The point with just spewing out the bile is trying to get to something truthful. It's not about hate speech or trampling woke or like I don't care about any of that, but it's an investigation. It's a philosophical inquiry into and making the material out of that, trying to be funny and smart, and but not necessarily pedantic. trying to figure it out. And by figuring it out that's funny. It's funny when you get solutions to shit that's funny. Like, I don't know, how do we even it out? How do we level the playing field? Or, I don't know. I think these guys just need swag. Like, you need to find some fucking swag. Like, women will, like, it's not impossible to like to meet women today. Like, there are definitely people meeting and hooking up and all of that. Just like, you just have to get out of your house and like do something. You have to talk to people. You have to elbow your way into shit somehow. You have to get on stage. You got to, whatever the hell it is, get rich. You know, don't just get jacked. That's not going to do anybody any good. That's just gooning. That's just another form of gooning. Like, find whatever your power is. Like, that's what women are attracted to. They're I don't think you can like blame women. It's not like hoflation. Like, okay, maybe like they do have like a little bit of a fucking sense of entitlement and heightened, there has been a huge importance placed on female beauty in my lifetime. That's biological largely. It's how we're driven as a species. We're driven, insane by our horniness to the point that like we have to overcome all of the obstacles. It isn't easy actually at all. The comfort zone. You have to leave your comfort zone. That's where it begins. Generally, that's where women start to get turned on. As soon as you leave your comfort zone, that's where they start to get turned on. You have to do something scary, but like that's like smart. That might pay off. You have to believe in yourself. You have to make something of yourself. Like build status, build clout somehow, however that is. Find whatever your strength is. If it's making money, if it's starting a business, if it's cooking, whatever the fuck it is. If it's writing fucking music or whatever, find an interesting way to do it. You don't have to be like necessarily some giant success or something. It's just like, as long as you're out there and growing and like you can get along with others, like, oh my God, look at my eye. What's going on? Shit will happen. But like, if you're at home playing GTA 5 or whatever, or you're online all day gooning, for Christ's sake, if you're masturbating competitively, you are way off the mark. You are way far away from. And I mean, to some degree, men are like sperm. It's like sperm. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them, and only one gets through. And we're all like in this race. We're programmed to be like, oh my God, gotta get in there, gotta get in there, gotta get in there. And most of us fail. But not always. I mean, if you try, you can have sex with somebody. Most guys are not actually that picky, to be honest. I think they're sort of realistic. Most guys know what they're kind of capable of achieving. They're not necessarily trying to they're, I don't know, are they incels because they're like not getting fucked by like 10s or something? They're like, ugh, I don't want this like 8. Ew. She weighed 125 pounds. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's most of the cities in this country are not set up like New York, though. It's harder to go out, meet people. You got to drive everywhere. You know, your your feet might not hit pavement at all. You'll probably go through a drive-through. Maybe you go to a bar or something. You might meet somebody there, I suppose, but like there's probably fucking TVs everywhere. It's probably not encouraged to talk to other people you don't know for the most part. People are closed off, maybe they're zombies. If there are scenes everywhere, you can go out everywhere and like there's fucking some kind of conglomerate of people who care about life. But I mean, in New York, it's just like whatever you're into: poetry, comedy, making movies, being a fucking doctor, audio engineering. You can probably meet tons of hot people that are brilliant and have cool ideas and are motivated. But I mean, you're also focused on your career, so you can't totally do both, really. Uh, so but I don't think we should. I'm the Scott Galloway, okay? It's like it's unbelievable to me that like the New Yorker article about the men's crisis was like told through the lens of Scott Galloway. Like Scott Galloway is like the voice and the face of like the men's crisis. And it's like I don't know that like we shouldn't blame men. Like I am sympathetic to the idea that like, especially since Trump got elected, if you were 16 years old when Trump got elected, like there was like a tremendous change in the gender dynamic where like society really like abused or like blamed fucking men for everything. And, the attitude, what you could do before 2016 and, how you could approach people. This is something you see online a lot is like, why don't men approach in public anymore? It's like, well, because from 2016 to 2022, basically, it was like encouraged to like be mean to guys, basically. Everybody was queer. Women were like, dude, I'm gay, bro. I'm gay. And, because of Trump as sort of like this highly incendiary emblem of like patriarchy, white supremacy, masculinity, raping people, sexual abuser, the list goes on, whatever. All of the worst qualities of white male patriarchal dominance rolled into one fucking gaudy gold fucking. I do think there's credence to the idea that Trump is like gay or something. Like now the whole Roy Cohen thing kind of has a whole different resonance. Now it kind of makes more sense. It's like, oh fuck, okay, I see. That's how he was initiated. And so, that is one reason why a lot of guys went down this alt-right pipeline or, fucking just like checked out and didn't try to develop socially or anything because it's just like, all of the opportunities were taken away. Everyone was fucking talking shit about you publicly through social media. You're not getting any jobs. You're not getting any. And so I feel for them, like that's why they're all, right wing stand up comedians or whatever, or listen to stand up comedy, or they're groypers, or they're droogies, or they're uh, Proud Boys. Is that still a thing? Does January 6th kill the Proud Boys? All right, I think I'm going to get going pretty soon. Maybe I'll do 5 more minutes. Um, and it's even just embarrassing to talk about, right? To be like a men's, like, sympathetic, to even care. Uh, and obviously, women had it, you know, real hard for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? They were servants basically, and uh so yeah, they just have it easier than us, but they think that it's they think they're the victim. And I don't know, it's really hard. It's hard to be a man these days. It's just like there's no money, there's no jobs. Uh well, I don't know. I guess it's not that hard anymore, but you got to figure out something that fucking works. You just got to put yourself out there and put yourself out there, whatever the hell it is. You got to find some, that's like finding meaning in your life, whatever it is that like gives your life fucking meaning. And for a lot of people, it is music. That's one thing I will say. And that's kind of sad. It's like, pretty normal for like a fucking video to pop up in my TikTok of like a guy playing some song he wrote on acoustic guitar, or somebody playing live, some band of dudes playing live. And it's like nobody likes these videos. It's like they'll get like 3 likes or something. And but for women, it's like exciting. They're in a band, they're hot chicks. They can use their hotness to like get an audience on. And then that shit matters now, right? I know I sound like a fucking chode loser, but it's like it's something that doesn't get discussed. It's not impossible. Like as a man, you can definitely build like an online following. You have to figure out it, but you can't just use your fucking body, basically, unless you're somber or something. Uh, unless you're just a total Chad. It's like you're either a fucking Pete Davidson or like you're just a like nothing. You're not worth looking at. Uh, or you're a micro niche. You're a micro influencer with your micro penis. And so you can leverage that. You can leverage that into a fucking tour or thousands of goddamn views on your reels just because fucking men want to look at your face. And so it's just sad. It's sad, but I encourage guys to post anyway. Post your song that only gets 3 likes. Like I'm saying, it might get through. Like the numbers aren't everything. Like if you get through to even a few fucking people, like I said, if even a few things like stick with people, it's like that was worth it for me. Like I said some crazy shit, but I'd rather say something that somebody might remember. or do something somebody might remember, even if it's bombing like horribly. Um, uh, yeah, there's a lot of guys out there. There's probably more guitar players than ever out there. Rock Band and Guitar Hero and the internet and tablature and YouTube tutorials. It's like, now there's like little kids that fucking play like beat the Beatles shit. You'll see a guy playing with his 3-year-old kids and they're all playing like the Beatles songs together. One kid's playing bass, another kid's playing drums. It's like when we were kids, we could not get our shit together at all. Like we had instruments around, but like we didn't until like middle school, we didn't really play them that much. Until the internet. The internet was really how I learned how to play guitar, actually, tablature. So I don't that's why I'm doing the karaoke. Karaoke is what you do when you're trying to save your own life. Because everybody likes singing. It's the best way to just I think people need to sing together. I think that's the one of the best things we can do as human beings. And these are the songs everybody knows and the words are right there. And so it's just a way to get like spontaneous, right? Like this is what they did on, work gangs and shit. What did they do? They sang. What do they do in the Navy SEAL Hell Week? They sing. Like you sing to make yourself feel better. And so the karaoke just is instant party, instant happiness, instant euphoria wherever you go. And yeah, so I'm singing karaoke, everybody. All right. Well, thank you for watching. We're dissecting how do we level out. I don't think it's like men need to get hotter. I just think they need to like do whatever your purpose is, and it is harder now because like everybody has to work, right? Everybody's rent is $2,000 a month. So like everybody's got 3 jobs. So there's not a lot of time for personal development. You'd rather just go home and look at your phone or whatever, make content. That's the other thing is like we're making shit alone. Now everybody's like a laptop bedroom producer filming videos like this. I'm talking, me, literally, I talk into a computer with nobody watching like 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week. So you're not going to meet any women that way. You're not going to meet any women live streaming. You got to get out in the real world. All right. Well, thank you for watching. We'll be back on soon. Have a wonderful holiday. I mean, is there anything happening? What is today? R.I.P. Steve Cropper. We'll talk soon, everybody. Bye bye.